Hi guys, my name's Sam. This is the first YouTube video I've done, so you'll have to forgive me if I kind of go off on a little tangent because I tend to do that. But there's a lot of myths surrounding mental health and a lot of questions people with mental health are asked. So what I'm trying to do in this video is dispel some of those myths and maybe answer some of the questions people have. I've asked people, friends, people on groups to come up with questions they've been asked, and I've come up with a list, and I'm going to try and explain from my perspective how I would answer these, and maybe hopefully give you a better understanding of what it's like to suffer with mental health issues and a better understanding of people with mental health issues. The first one, I think, is asked for people with depression a lot, and I think a lot of people think it is this simple. Why can't you snap out of it? Well, the answer is because you can't snap out of an illness. If I had the flu, no one would ask me why I can't snap out of that. I'm ill, therefore I have to work through it to get over it. There are times when medications can help, but you're going to have your good days and your bad days. There's different types of depression. There's bipolar disorder, there's reaction depression, there's severe depression, there's mild depression. There's all sorts. Some of them are long-term, some of them are short-term. With the long-term type, which is normally when you're asked why can't you just snap out of it, you'll have your good days and your bad days. And on the bad days, trying to do anything is as hard as trying to go and do a 12-hour shift. So that is why I would say you couldn't just snap out of it, because you have nothing left to give. When you're in that state of depression, you don't have anything left to give to be able to get out of it, if you like. You know, you're completely consumed by hopelessness, this feeling of self-loathing, just everything seems dark, dingy, and a lot of it seems pointless. And you're trying to fight through that. To then fight through that and get on with everyday life is extremely difficult. So that is why I would say people can't just snap out of it, as well as it being an illness. Another one, so I've personally never been asked this, but a few people have been asked, are you crazy? My answer to that is no. I'm not crazy. Like I've said before, I'm ill. I'm not a danger to anyone. I think crazy is used to stigmatise and to cause fear in people without mental health issues, and I'm not crazy, and nor is anyone else. They're suffering from an illness. And I think to say someone is crazy is stigmatising them and saying they're a danger. And I don't actually agree with the term crazy at all, because it means that someone is a danger to others. So no, the majority of people with mental health issues aren't a danger to others, so therefore not crazy. The next one is it safe for you to be around children? So that's kind of led quite nicely onto this one. For me, and most people with mental health issues, yes, many people with mental health issues bring up kids with absolutely no problem of, they don't harm their own kids. So obviously it's safe for people with mental health issues to be around kids, unless there is an actual intent from that person to hurt a kid, or if they've hurt a kid before, there's no reason you can't be around kids. Unless you're in the middle of a psychotic break, then I would say, okay, you belong in hospital at that point, not, or you belong in community care. But I would say at that point, no, probably don't leave your kids with them, but that's just common sense. That's the same as don't leave your kids with someone that can't get out of bed because they've got the flu, because they're not going to be able to deal with that situation. Why aren't you locked up is another one that has apparently been asked. I've never been asked that. I have been told I belong in hospital, but I've never been asked why I'm not locked up. But again, I think this comes back to the people with mental health issues are dangerous. I saw a headline quite a while ago now that said this many people with mental health issues have murdered in the last 10 years. I can't remember the exact number, but that headline was purely to cause fear. But if you look at the people without mental health issues also killed, actually that adds up to more, because that portion of society without mental health issues is bigger than the portion of society with mental health issues, with long-term mental health issues. So, and being human beings, we all have the capacity to harm and kill. So, why am I not locked up? Because I don't have any intention of harming anyone else. So why should I be locked up? Why should I not have my freedom? You know, I suffer enough every day. You know, let's not take my freedom away from me as well, just because other people are scared to make other people comfortable. Well, there's plenty of things and people in this life that don't make me comfortable, but I don't want them to be locked up. Another one, and this one quite surprised me, was I didn't know there were so many different mental illnesses. I just thought it was all one. And I suppose it surprised me because physical health issues, no one questions that there's many, many, many different types of that. But with mental health issues, it's not questioned. It's not talked about. So people don't really understand that there are many, many different illnesses within mental health. Like the DSM IV, or the IDC 10, I think it is. I'm not quite sure what I studied with the American one, the DSM IV, which is the 5th one, which is out now. I think it's called the ICD-10 here. Those books are about that thick, and they are just filled with different mental illnesses. Each main title has many, many subcategories. So, you know, there's different severities, there's different illnesses, there's different treatments, the same as there is with physical health issues, really. The one I've been asked quite a lot is, if you know it's a panic attack, why does it still scare you? Because at the time that I'm having the panic attack, I don't know that it's a panic attack. Even though I have maybe the slightest little tiny bit of belief there that it's a panic attack, at the point I'm in panic attack, I'm dying. So it's not a panic attack to me. It's I'm dying. I do have an anxious run-up to it, where I do try and talk myself out of it. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm successful in not having the panic attack, but not successful in not having the anxiety. So I'll just stay on this level of anxiety. And that's because I fear the panic attack so much. I do not want to feel like I'm dying, because human nature is to survive. And feeling like you're about to die is one of the worst feelings I've ever experienced. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, to be honest. Because human nature is to survive, to carry on, to live. So when you're in the panic attack mode, that is a biological process your body's going through, as if you're being chased by a lion, as if you've come up to a real danger and your reaction is fight or flight. But the reality is your brain's saying there's a danger there when there's not. So you've got all the symptoms, but you can't use them to your advantage. So instead you have panic attacks and anxiety and all of this. So I'd say the reason for that is because they're bloody scary. I feel like I'm going to die. You know, whether or not I know during anxiety that it's a run-up to a panic attack and that I'm probably not going to die, the fear of the panic attack in me is so great that anxiety will continue. But obviously this is from my perspective, and this is not what other people may say. One has been asked apparently is, did you know you have mental health issues? For me, it's taken me a long time to accept it. I recognise now, in retrospect, I've been suffering from mental health issues nearly all my life. I accepted that I was having panic attacks at probably the age of 17, 18, but I didn't consider it a mental health issue. I moved to Spain, I got ill, or it got worse, so they put me on diazepam. And I think during all this time, although I knew I was suffering with depression and anxiety, I didn't accept that it was a mental health issue. Because there's, like I say, so much stigma surrounding mental health issues. So I didn't necessarily accept that. When I think I finally accepted it properly, although I've argued with the mental health teams for years that it's been more than anxiety and depression, I accepted the severity of my own illness, I would say, about 2 years ago. And I've suffered for as long as I can remember, because it's so hard to actually accept. And I knew, because I realised I can't cope in the way that everyone else copes. I realised that I lose friendships because of my reactions to things. And I mean, now I'm to the point that I've had friends in my life that understand that I have this issue, and they understand they either have to deal with it or they can't actually be in my life, because if you can't deal with my illness, you can't deal with me. And I'm a strong believer in, if you don't want bad, you don't get the good. So that's my answer to that one. To be honest, I can't tell you when I actually knew. I can only tell you when I accepted, and that was about 2 years ago. And I'm 28 now, God, that's scary. 28 now, and I've been suffering from panic attacks since I was 18. I went in retrospectively, anxiety and depression for years as far back as I can remember. So I don't know how I knew necessarily, but I know how I accepted. One that does get asked again about depression is, how can you be depressed when you're sitting here laughing and joking? And as I've mentioned before, you have good days, you have bad days, and that's the same with physical health. You have good days and you have bad days. Sometimes that laughing and joking is just a front. Inside, I can go into many places and be confident and laugh and joke with people, and I look like I'm enjoying myself, whilst inside, everything I'm saying is going through my head. And I'm thinking, why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Sam, you need to shut up. You need to shut up now. You know, and and then I will get home and it will go through my head all night and I won't be able to sleep. But to other people, all they've seen is the fact that I'm not joking. That doesn't mean I'm not suffering. It just means I'm not showing my suffering. How would you tell your family? For me, that's come about in a very, very roundabout way. Obviously, when I started having panic attacks, I didn't know what they were. All I knew is I kept feeling like I was going to die. So I believed that there was something seriously wrong with me. And my mum explained to me that I was having panic attacks. But the actual mental health issues that I have now, I realise I've had for many, many years. I don't really know how I explained it to them. I find it very hard to explain my mental health issues, because I'm just beginning to understand them myself. I'm just beginning to understand my own feelings on it. So I've sat down and I've explained my feelings to the best of my ability to my parents and to my brother. There are people that don't accept it, and there are always going to be people that don't accept it, that just think, you're just being lazy. You know, because one of the things I really struggle with is tidying up, cleaning up, organising, dealing with bills, dealing with all of that. That makes my head actually want to explode. So there are people out there that will think, you're just being lazy, you just want someone else to do it for you. No, I would give anything to be able to just deal with that. But for me, it makes me feel like I'm going to explode. That's why I've had to move back in with my parents, because I can't deal with bills or cleaning or any of that. And when I was living alone, I got into a very big state as a result of my inability to deal with those things. So, yeah, I told you I go off on tangents, which I have no idea what question I was just answering, so yeah. Oh, no. Another one, someone has been asked, I've never really been asked it, but I know people have thought it, is do you self-harm for attention? No. There have been times when I personally have self-harmed because I was trying to express what I was feeling and I didn't have the words to express it. But there's many, many different reasons people self-harm. Within one person there can be many, many different reasons that will push them to self-harm. And sometimes, yes, it's going to be seen as attention seeking, but to say attention seeking suggests that someone doesn't have issues. And when someone is harming themselves in whatever way, by cutting, biting, hitting their head against the wall, giving themselves black eyes, whatever they're doing to actually harm themselves, whether they're showing people and going, look what I did, or whether they're hiding it, there is an issue there. Because there are many ways to get attention. You don't necessarily have to be, causing yourself physical harm. So I'd say to that, no. I don't think people self-harm for attention. I think some people self-harm to draw attention to the fact that they're not coping. But I wouldn't say that's attention seeking. I would say that is asking for help. That's, saying to someone, please help me, because I can't do this type of thing. But there's many other reasons. Like I have done it for that reason. I've done it because I feel guilty, I feel angry, I feel overwhelmed with emotions, and I have no way of dealing with that. And I use it, and have used it in the past, as a coping mechanism. And it's not a healthy coping mechanism, so I wouldn't suggest anyone go out there and do it. Definitely don't do that. It's addictive, and you do not want to get addicted to something like that, believe me. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, because I don't want to give anyone the idea that it's a good thing to do, because it's not. But I want to make it clear that anyone that does that has some form of issues. Whether they're showing you their issues or not, you don't self-harm if you don't have issues. Anyway, I've been asked about coping skills. Well, I would say for a very long time I haven't had any coping skills. I didn't know how to cope, and I would become overwhelmed. And that still sometimes happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't. It's recently happened. I did become very overwhelmed and ended up in hospital. But my ability to cope has improved since attending recovery college, where I've learned a lot about myself, so I can spot more of the signs that I'm going into this and I need to do something. I need to start listening to my body and my mind, and when enough is enough. So I need to take a step back, I need to rest, and then I can come back, so that I'm not pushing myself further than I can go and then going into crisis and all of that. That has been a massive coping mechanism for me. Another one, and this is again through the recovery college, I started doing recovery through creativity, and it's helped focus my mind completely. I'm one of these people that can't focus on one thing at a time. I focus on about 20 things at a time. So that can be quite difficult when you're trying to get your head straight and you've got millions of things going through your mind. I found we've done things like silk painting, mod rock sculptors, dream catchers, all sorts of different things. And I found that they help focus my mind because I'm focusing on that, and it's kind of taking away everything else from my mind, and my focus is on that, and that's something I never found that I've been able to do. really. The other thing that I started doing recently, I'll only show you these two nails because the rest are chipped at the moment, so I've got to redo them. But I've been doing a lot of nail art in the evenings to distract myself, which is, there you go. A lot of, no, it'll look better that way, wouldn't it? A lot of nail art in the evenings, which has helped me to, again, focus my mind and distract myself. And those are the things I personally have found great coping mechanisms. Talking it through can be a good coping mechanism, and for anyone that has someone coming to them wants to talk them through their mental health, the best advice I can give you is listen to that person. Don't necessarily tell them how to get over it. Just listen to them and be there for them, and empathise with them, and try and understand what they're going through. Because when people have done that with me, it has allowed me to bring out a lot of what's inside, and it's given me a little bit of relief from my own internal thoughts, because a lot of the time what goes on is kept inside. When I have someone that just listens and accepts, I don't necessarily, I can feel better from that. And the last one is, do you find support groups useful, and if so, do you find online support groups useful or face-to-face better? Personally, I've attended both, and I find both just as useful, because with face-to-face, you're in a room and you're with people that can completely understand where you're coming from, and that is invaluable. To sit there and be in a room full of people and say, I feel this, and not be judged and sectioned from society. That brings me to another point, but I'll come back to that point. You're in a room and everyone in there can understand what you're feeling, and you're not judged for feeling that. Whereas in the outside world you kind of are, because not the outside world, that's to suggest that I'm different, I'm just me. People that don't suffer with mental health issues can find it very hard not to judge. And I can understand that, because my thinking patterns are a little messed up. I'm not going to deny that for a second. They are a little messed up. And that's why I found support groups helpful, because it's helped me to accept my issues and accept me without thinking I'm so evil anymore. But I found online support groups just as helpful, because with both of them, I'm in a situation where with that I've got the face-to-face support, and that's great, that's invaluable, like I said. With an online support group, they're normally available 24/7. You can normally post how you're feeling 24/7. And that to me is invaluable, because I can feel a lot at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't go and wake anyone up and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. So to type it out onto a group, a support group, can be really, really useful. It's available 24/7. There's no set times for meetings, and I found that quite invaluable as well. So I'd say, for me personally, both. Some people find face-to-face too hard, while some people find online too impersonal. So I would say, for anyone out there suffering with mental health issues, go for both. You know, see what suits you. And go from there, really. The other point I wanted to make was that it's back to one of the first questions. I told you I go off on tangents. Are you crazy? The stigmatisation of the word crazy is to scare people of people with mental health issues. Why any paper or media outlet would want to do that, I'm not quite sure, but that is the point of it and the purpose of it. And what it does is it sections us off from society and says, you're different from us, I'm scared of you, I don't want to be near you. And it kind of isolates you from the outside world, because you don't feel part of society, you feel outside of it all. And it can be really bad, because when you have mental health issues, a lot of the time you'll isolate yourself anyway. To have other people isolating you as well is confirming and reaffirming your belief that you're different and shouldn't be in society or any of that, and it can really damage a person's self-esteem, which is not going to help with their mental health issues. Someone with mental health issues, it doesn't mean they're going to kill you. Honestly, I've never felt like harming anyone else in my entire life. I felt like harming myself, but I'm more of a danger to myself than I ever will be to anyone else. And the point I'm trying to make with this, I suppose, is every human being has the capacity to harm. Just because someone suffers with mental health issues does not mean they're going to harm you. And I hope that's helped people to understand a bit and maybe dispelled some of the myths. And I hope you've enjoyed listening to me rattle on. And well done if you managed to get to the end. Thank you very much for listening.